All right, everyone. So, Tzvi, can I ask, I'll bother you for one thing? Is my calendar, actually, I know where it is. It's right here. I wanted to give you guys the intro. Hopefully we're going to have some more people coming in. This is the new 613 program. So let me tell you what's unique about this program. I don't know when you're leaving, Boris, but hopefully you'll be here for some of it. 3 more weeks? Okay. Not if I have something to say about it. Okay. So this is a new program called 613. Raise your hand if you've participated at all in our 777 program. Yes, we have quite a few of you. Huh?
In spirit.
In spirit, okay. 4 more weeks, okay. So the 777 program was a program where we got a class, a dinner, and a professional workshop all in one session, and we had 7 straight sessions of that. This program is one less class, but there's a condition, right? 613, what does 613 stand for? 6 classes. Each session is going to include a Torah class, a dinner, and a professional workshop. Today we're going to have Rabbi Shalom Garfinkel giving us a Skype class from Chicago after dinner. Very excited about that. He's one of my close friends. He's the one that I run my Israel trip with. And 1 stands for Shabbaton. So you're all going to be invited to a Shabbat in our neighborhood, in our community, the full Shabbat from Friday until Saturday night. We'll have you hosted. We'll have meals set for you, everything ready to go. And then 3 refers to 3 one-on-one sessions that you will all be having with either myself or Rabbi Wolbe or Rabbi Wolbe's wife or my wife or any of the Torch rabbis or their wives. Now, you don't have to do any of this, but the incentive to follow this program is that full completion of this program, what a hat, Lauren. You can wear that, that's fine. The incentive to follow this program, okay, is going to be that we have a special partnership with an organization called Olami, and Olami has told us that this program qualifies for the $300 grant towards our Israel trip. So we are going to Israel this summer for 10 days between June 25th and July 5th. The base price for this trip is already heavily subsidized. It's just your flight cost and $125. If you complete this program in its entirety, that means every single class, that 1 Shabbaton, which is the full Shabbat, and the 3 one-on-one learning meetings with either myself or another Torch rabbi or a rabbi's wife. If you complete the full program, I will get you guaranteed $300 voucher towards the Israel trip. So some of you may have seen my post on Facebook, but I'm going to go through the names of the guest speakers that we have coming up. So today I'm giving the class. Then we have Rabbi Garfinkel Skyping in after dinner. Next week we have Mrs. Tzivia Weiss, who's the CEO of the Houston Kashrut organization, who's going to be giving us a class. Then we have Mrs. Yagobian, the wife of Rabbi Yagobian, who's the rabbi at this synagogue. She's going to be giving us a class here on love, dating, and relationships and marriage. The week after that, on March 13th, we have Mrs. Wolbe, who's going to do a young professional's challah bake. And we're going to have Danny Kamkaji of Mostly Chocolate giving us a whole talk about his chocolate business. The week after that, March 20th, we have Mr. Eric Pines of the, you're going to be for that one? That's your last one? Okay. Of Pines and Associates Law Firm. He's going to talk to us. And then we have Mrs. Fagi Grossman, who's the wife of Rabbi Yossi Grossman of the Jewish Ethics Institute. Then the next week we have Mr. Jack Polachek, who's the CEO of Intera Capital. And followed by my wife. My wife is giving a class on the 27th of March. That should be exciting. And we'll see. Hers is the only topic that has yet to be determined. And last but not least, we have, of course, Jessica Shrem on April 3rd giving a talk about what she does as a massage therapist. And we have Danielle Tabashnik giving us a talk about architecture. Woo! So the truth is, some of you may have noticed that we have more women involved in giving classes this round, and that's really thanks to Danielle and other people that made that suggestion, and I was all in on that. So I really look forward to having you all joining us for these next 6 weeks. If you haven't already paid, please come over to me during dinner or after dinner. You can either pay $10 each session, or if you haven't paid online already, it's going to be $50 for the full series. Thank you all again for being here. Anybody have any questions before we start the class? Yes, Maria?
Yes, do you know the date for the Shabbaton?
So we're working on a date. Can I get an idea which date would work best for you guys? Not the Purim one. The Purim one would be the 11th, 12th, 13th, so we're not going to do that one. You know what might work? Maybe the 24th, 25th. That works? So, does that week work? Huh? Well, you're not going to be there, Boris? Okay, we'll see. Well, we're gonna discuss what we got. It'll either be the one after Purim or the one before Purim, but maybe just to give us some time. That would be this one? Huh?
Or, yeah, no, the one before Purim's fine, but not the 17th.
Right. Right.
The Purim is
Okay.
coming up. So
Okay, so we'll see. Either way, we'll work on it. Any other questions about the program? Camden, have a seat.
I'm waiting for
Oh, okay.
So
All
why
right.
did the hat come from China?
why did it come from China?
Yeah.
Because we're trying to make China great.
Okay, guys, we are live, so we only have we only have half an hour at this point. I'm going to ask Tzvi. First of all, if all of you could please turn off your mobile devices, that way we can have our crust. Sorry, no, 7:25, please. Okay, 7:25. You can turn the burners on. If they're not working, then you could just find them near the bathroom. Okay?
Yeah, it's Tzvi's mom.
Huh?
Tzvi's mom's watching.
She's watching? Oh, very nice. Okay. All right, so let's talk about Purim. Who can share with me some thoughts of what Purim means to you? Because to a lot of people, it's all about drinking, it's all about partying, and let's face it, a lot of us do that all year round. So if we are doing that all year round, then even though the Manishtana song is set on Pesach, which means why is this night different than any other night, I'm going to ask you the same question regarding Purim. Why is Purim different than any other night? Because we know that in the general world for the 20s and 30s group, I think, if I understand correctly, what do people do Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, and maybe even Sunday nights? People party, they drink, they have a good time. Houston chili cook-off. Right? People have a good time. So what makes Purim any different? What is the meaning of Purim to you? How do you observe it? What is it? What do you do? Let's go around the room.
I don't do anything.
Okay. Hopefully this year things will change, Lauren. Elena,
I show up at other people's parties.
you show up at other people's parties. Maria?
Well, I usually join my friends and eat those triangles with poppy seeds, yes.
Okay, so you bake.
Or eat.
Or eat.
The result of someone's baking.
Okay, Tzvi?
Every year has always been different.
Give us some examples.
Some years it's drinking.
Some years it's drinking. You wouldn't be wrong for drinking. The halacha says, and we have to analyze this halacha, the halacha says that a person has to get inebriated on Purim. Now there's a machloket, there's a dispute between the rabbis as to what that means. The Torah is not pro-intoxication, generally. Okay, you know, we find in the Torah 2 cases, maybe 3 cases of different people in the times of the Bible that got intoxicated, and the Torah doesn't really look very positively on their actions. Can anybody think of any of them? Noah comes. Oh, was that in the movie? I didn't see the movie.
No, it's in the book.
It's in the book too. Okay, good. Yeah.
And he sexes up his kids.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
What?
Is that the Bible?
Yes, it's in the original.
Okay, no, because
book.
I didn't
The
watch the
adapted
movie,
book.
but I heard there was some controversy in the movie, and the truth is, it's never really recommended. And I'm not telling you what to do. It's never really recommended to try to develop your idea of the stories of the Bible from Hollywood because they often get it very, very, very wrong. I remember the first movie that I watched with my wife was The 10 Commandments, and as we were watching it, we're like, ding, that's wrong, ding, that's wrong, that's wrong. There's so many things that are just totally off, and it's not, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal because we're talking about really sanctified, elevated topics from which we believe are eternal in nature. You can't really get that wrong. It's not good to get the Torah wrong. So same thing with Prince of Egypt, that the animated movie. Somebody told me that Moses has a Rolex in the 10 Commandments movie. I don't know if that's true or not. I have yet to see it. Maybe I'll check it out on Google Images. But either way, so Noah, what happens? He comes out of the ark, and he gets intoxicated. And the Torah doesn't look very positively on that. The same thing is true with Lot. Anybody know who Lot was? He was related to Abraham. Good. He was Abraham's brother-in-law or nephew. I think it's a dispute. Both, okay. He was Abraham's relative, and upon the destruction of his hometown Saddam. Remember, he split from Abraham and he decided he wants more financial means and prosperity. The commentators tell us that really what he was really after was immorality, because sodomy. Where do you think the word sodomy comes from? It comes from Saddam. Saddam was the most immoral city, and God decided that this is a city that represents all evil. We need to destroy this city. And Abraham tries defending it, and he says, God, but maybe I'll find 10 tzaddikim. Maybe I'll find, he starts off with 40 tzaddikim, 30 tzaddikim, 20 tzaddikim. Eventually, God says, there aren't even 10 tzaddikim. I need to destroy the city. So, but in the merit of the great Abraham, Lot deserved to be saved. And upon getting saved, it says that after the destruction, right, his wife looked back. She becomes a pillar of salt. If any of you ever go to Israel, you go with the tour guide. The Israeli guy points to a rock and he says, "This is Lot's wife. It is the pillar of salt." And there's no way of knowing if it's true or not. You're like, sure, Mr. Israeli tour guy, you can think that, but there's many, many such rocks that look like that. Anyways, so I always like to make fun of those people.
You should watch Ancient Aliens.
Ancient Aliens?
Their
Oh, yeah.
interpretation of that.
Like the one you mentioned, and kind of have a commentary on it.
Huh?
Can we watch a movie like one of those? Holiday
Sure,
movies?
I'd be happy to. Next movie night, Danielle. But either way, so what happens? After Saddam is destroyed, Lot gets intoxicated. And after that intoxication, his two daughters, thinking that they are the last remaining human beings on planet Earth, they decide that they need to have children with their father. And then the nations of Ammon and Moab are born. Those are the only two nations that are not allowed to convert into the Jewish people, because a few generations later they withhold the Jewish people. They forbid the Jewish people from crossing through their lands on the way to Israel. Again, the reason why that was such a grave sin was because who was their forefather? Lot. Who did Lot grow up with? Abraham. What was Abraham's greatest claim to fame, his greatest attribute? The attribute of kindness, of chesed. So how can it be that you, Ammon and Moab, the descendants of Lot, who himself characterized this hospitality? We see the story of Lot when he was in Sodom. Those of you that remember the story where you have the angels that are going to save him and to destroy the city, they're knocking on his door and he lets them in, and he refuses to let the angels out to the wild barbarians outside his house. That's because he had an element of hospitality to him that he received from Abraham. How can it be that his descendants don't carry that same gene of hospitality? And this is where the rabbis learned that when you have an attribute that's unique to you and you fail in that attribute, it's an even greater problem. It's an even greater sin. If you have a disposition to generosity and you're stingy, it's a problem. If you have a predisposition to kindness and you're wicked, that's a problem. If you have a disposition to, gratitude, and you're lacking in gratitude, that's a problem. So people are judged more harshly where they should have known better. Hence the whole concept of the point of free will. We discussed this a few weeks ago. Every single one of us has our own individual bar, our own timeline. We don't look at anybody else's timeline. We have our point. And the goal of life is to make free will decisions that move our point higher and higher throughout life. Now, if my point is here, and my friend has a timeline where his point is even lower than mine, then you can't compare the two. It might be a trial for me, whether I'm going to steal or not from someone, and for someone else, it's not. You understand? So we never judge each other as compared to someone else and someone else's struggles. Everybody has their own struggle. Everybody has their own point of free will. So we see clearly from the Torah that intoxication is not a good thing. What's the easiest way to understand why intoxication is not a good thing? What does intoxication cause? I could tell you firsthand. Huh? Okay, a hangover, you don't feel well. It's not a good thing to subject your body to sickness. If we have a choice whether to be sick or not, we have an obligation to take care of our bodies. Getting sick on alcohol is damaging to the body, it's damaging to the liver, and that's already one good reason. Anybody else? You get out of control. You lose your faculties. That's a problem, right? In life, we're supposed to be in self-control. Why do we want to be in self-control? Because if we're not in self-control, there's nothing really stopping our base physical desires from taking over. In life, you'll notice in a bar, right? I wouldn't know, but you could tell me if this is true. right? When you're among people that are all intoxicated and they're all wild and drunk, all of a sudden, certain language comes out, certain immoral behavior comes out. It's disgusting. It's not the way any sane, sober human being would be speaking or behaving, right? It's totally devoid of control, right? So it's not that we believe that we are always in control, but to the best of our ability, we have an obligation, especially as Jews with our Torah, to aim and strive to be, on our game as best we can, as long as we can, through all waking moments. We always have to have our faculties to be able to make the right free will decisions. This is all, again, going with the idea that our time in this world is limited, that every moment in life that we have is a chance to gain greater spirituality. Every moment that's not used in the service of the Almighty is a moment that's wasted. It's a moment that's killed. It's a moment that's never coming back, right? That's not to say that indulging in certain physical pleasures does not fall into that realm. Okay, if you're eating a meal like on Shabbat and you're connecting to family and God in the process, that is turning the physical into spiritual. That counts in the spiritual realm. If you're having sleep, you're sleeping good hours so that you'll be refreshed the next day to continue your service of God, that is positive sleep. What's another example? Intimacy. Intimacy in Judaism is actually the holiest thing possible if it's in the realm of making one's spouse happy, feel pleasure, if it's in the realm of the great mitzvah of being fruitful and multiplying, right? Peru Urvu, the first mitzvah mentioned in the Torah. It's a beautiful thing. It's an amazing thing. There is not one physical, pleasureful, if that's a word, activity that cannot potentially fall in the spiritual realm. Okay? Now, if that's the case, that already gives you an insight into the power of Purim. Because all along right now, we've been talking about the damages of drinking too much and the downside of drinking. But if what I said was true, then we have to find a way to explain how getting inebriated, getting intoxicated on Purim, okay, can be a good thing. If it's true that every single physical pleasure, if done for the right reason and in the right way, if that can be done and fall into the spiritual realm. Okay? Anybody else have a contribution? What do you all think? Yes, Sarah.
We make the little gift box for the kids.
Oh, very nice.
With all the candies in it.
Uh-huh.
And there we go. Give a half shekel. We don't have half shekels, so we give them a $50. Just
Yeah.
way of doing it. And
Okay.
the noisemakers for the Megillah.
Oh, very good. So that works very well with like Pesach, because on Pesach, what's part of the main mitzvah on Pesach is V'higadeta lebincha bayom hahu. And you will tell your son, your children on that day. The entire concept of the Haggadah, of sitting down for the Haggadah Shal Pesach, is all about training. It's all about training our children in what Judaism is about, what it meant for God to take us out of Egypt. So what you're describing, Sarah, is beautiful, is also incorporating that idea of chinuch, of incorporating that idea of training our children in the keeping of the mitzvot in Purim as well, by getting them involved. The only way to do it is by getting them excited. You give them a Gregor, you give them Chanukah gelt, you give them prizes, that sort of thing. So that's definitely included in that idea. So that's that. So what can we say regarding the positive elements of getting drunk? Boris, have you ever had a positive experience when drinking? Chaim, yes, you bond with people. Okay, that's a good one. Boris, Chaim, huh? You're happy with people. Okay.
Studying goes faster.
Studying goes faster. What do you?
Faster.
Really?
Definitely, you can tolerate drunk groups better when you're drunk. There's nothing.
So
worse
it
than
numbs
being sober
the
and
pain.
partying.
It kind of numbs the pain. We are all walking around with things that are weighing us down. There are burdens to life. It could be financial burdens, it could be health burdens, it could be family or relationship burdens, and drinking seems to be the easy answer, the quick fix to numb ourselves physically and emotionally, so that what's left is a feeling of total elation. Okay? Fine. Why is that significance regarding Purim?
I thought the whole thing was you're supposed to drink until you can't recognize your breath.
So it's true. The halacha says that how does a person know how much they're supposed to drink? They have to drink until a certain point in time where they are no longer able to tell the difference between,
The name of Amman.
right, between cursed is Mordecai and blessed is Haman, right? So that's the level, yeah. Huh? Well, right. The truth is, blessed is Mordecai, cursed is Haman. Until you're no longer able to tell that distinction, that's how far you're supposed to. Yeah, I've been drinking too much, right? I just lost my train of thought. 1 second.
Actually, it did give you some commentary. You asked in what other situation people get drunk in the Bible.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yael and Sisera.
Yeah, that's right.
Got drunk,
That's right.
killed him.
Yeah, but she got drunk socially.
But that's what happens when you lose control. You like, and spike through your head.
So there must be something unique. So, this is what I wanted to say. So the question is, the Gemara says, every time something happens in the world, there's the political reason why something happens, but there's also the spiritual reason. Anytime something happens in the world, you have to ask yourself, why is God causing this to happen? Remember, not in Judaism, not only do we, Susan and Jay, guys, Susan, sorry, Jay, I'm sorry. Every time something happens in the world, there's the political reason why something happens, but there's also asking ourselves, why is God making this happen? Not only do we believe that God created the world, we also believe that God is running everything that's happening in the world. So if that's the case, when something does happen, the question is going to be, why did God cause this to happen? Now, one of the central things that happened, George, can I bother you to close that door over there? One of the central things that occurred on Purim was that there was a decree. There was a decree of annihilation on the Jewish people. If there was a decree of annihilation on the Jewish people, then according to our definition of that God not only created the world, but God is directly running the world, that means that God created this decree of annihilation for the Jewish people. And if that's the case, we have to ask ourselves why. The Talmud tells us why. The Talmud tells us that the reason is because we as a people were neheneh, we derived enjoyment or pleasure, miseudat Achashverosh, from the meal of Achashverosh. So those of you that have ever opened up the Megillah, you'll see that Achashverosh, the whole story of the Megillah begins with a party. What was that party? It was a feast. What was the feast? The feast was Achashverosh commemorating the third year of his rule and the end of the 70-year exile period, which was, there was a prophecy from Isaiah that the Jewish people are going to be exiled for 70 years, and after 70 years, they are going to come back to the land of Israel. So according to Achashverosh's calculation, 70 years were up, and the Jewish people were still in Babylon. For him, this was a cause of celebration because he didn't want the temple to be rebuilt. He put a cease to the building of the temple. He stopped the temple from continuing to be built. So he made a calculation. He made a calculation that 70 years are up. It must be that God has forsaken his people. I'm going to make a feast to celebrate my wife Vashti. I'm going to make a feast to celebrate the solidity of my kingship, because at that point Achashverosh was ruler of the world. The Persian Empire was the biggest empire of the world. And especially to celebrate the fact that, look, the Jewish people, they're 70 years from the prophecy. The 70 years are up and the Jewish people are still here. They haven't been redeemed. This was for him a cause of celebration. Now, not only did he make this party, but guess who showed up at this party? The Jewish people showed up at this party. Imagine, okay, to make a comparison, imagine a bunch of anti-Semites in the United States decide they're going to throw a racist themed party, and to celebrate, a certain race or whatnot, and the Jews show up to that party and they enjoy that party. It's disgraceful. Remember, whenever we have a nation coming at us and fighting us because of the fact that we're Jewish, what are they really coming to attack? They're coming to attack that which we represent. They're coming to attack the Torah that we keep. They're coming to attack God. God wrote the Torah. Everything that we do as Jews is from the Torah. Why do we circumcise our children? Why do we have a mezuzah on our door? Why do we keep the Shabbat? Why do we keep kosher? No one made that up. We have it directly from the Torah. If someone is questioning us as Jews and fighting us and hating us, that's directly linked to the idea that there is a God and that there is an absolute morality. So what business did we have enjoying from this meal? We had no business being there whatsoever. Apparently, it was such a big sin that we did, says the Talmud, that we derived pleasure in this meal that it was appropriate in God's eyes that there should be a decree of annihilation for the Jewish people. But as you can see, the way the story progresses, in the end we were saved. If you take a look at the word Megillah, the word Megillah has in it the term Megaleh. Megaleh, what does that mean, Chaim? To discover, to reveal. What does Hester mean in Hebrew? The name of the main character in the story of the Megillah is Esther. But if you switch around the letters and you take the words and you turn it into the word Nistar, what does Nistar mean? Nistar means hidden. The whole concept of Purim, okay, is extracting, okay, and making and revealing that which is hidden. Anybody want to take a guess how many times the name of God is mentioned in the Megillah? Okay. We have two people saying 0. Anyone else? I'm not saying you're wrong, but anyone else? Okay, so we only have 2 volunteers who happen to be right. The entire Megillah says the name of God 0 times. Why is that? Why is that? Because it's hidden. You see, there's a difference between, you know that God does not like throwing open miracles at us. You know why? Because when God throws open miracles at us, our ability to relate to him with our free will is a little bit diminished. I have less of a hard time working on myself to believe in God and living Jewishly if it's so obvious to me that he's right there. So God created the world in a way where he's a little bit in the back shadows. Some of that is because of our sins, the fact that our temple was destroyed. We no longer have the level of closeness with the Almighty that we used to have. But there's also a benefit to that. We have an objective. We have a mission of working on ourselves to try to find God in our lives. And this really brings me to the main theme of what I wanted to discuss tonight. Okay? Because if you take a look at the end of the Megillah, it says, Kimu v'kiblu, and the Gemara says, Me'ahava. Hey, Miriam, how are you? Have a seat. It says that when the Jews were saved in the story of Purim, the Jews re-accepted the Torah. What does it mean that they re-accepted the Torah? Wasn't it enough for us to accept it once? We accepted it on Mount Sinai. Why do we have to accept it a second time? Right? What was the difference? So the Gemara this time says that they not only accepted the Torah, they accepted it with love. Some rabbis say that what this means is that they originally only accepted the written law, and now they also accepted the oral law, which comes with it. But according to another pshat, according to another idea, the concept is that they accepted it from love. What does it mean to accept the Torah from love? So this is really in line with what we're discussing, is that if it's spoon-fed to you, and it's clear to you, and everything is obvious to you, then it's not really something that you're investing of yourself into. It's something that's being given to you, right? Something that you don't invest of yourself in is not something you are going to love with the same amount of propensity, of intensity, whatever the word is. It's the same in marriage, it's the same in relationships, it's the same in your jobs, it's the same in school. The more you put of yourself into something, the more you invest of yourself into something to extract something out of it, the more you love it, the more it becomes part of you. And it's so true. You know, they did a study with this famous doctor, I forgot his name, but you can come to me after class, I'll find it. And he conducted what's called a love lab. And what he did was he had a whole bunch of rooms where he put married people together in these rooms, and he told them that this is an experiment, and he didn't tell them what he was looking out for, but he knew that they were married, and there were cameras in the room, and he told them, I want you to live in this room for a couple weeks or months, whatever it was. We are going to do some observations, and we are going to follow through on our tests. What this doctor was looking to see, okay, he took these tests, he let them go, and then he followed up with them years later to see who was married and who was no longer married. And he did this test over a long, long period of time. And he got very, very interesting, conclusive research from this test. And he said that he noticed that after all those months of research, and then the years later finding out who's married and who's divorced, that the majority of couples that remained married were couples whom, during the lab test, when they were living in this room and the doctor was doing analysis of their interactions, that each spouse was having a lot of interaction with each other, that they were doing a lot with each other, they were conversing a lot, right? They were talking with each other. They were making a point of working on the relationship, of investing into the relationship. You know, how often do we find friends or family that can be sitting across from each other at a restaurant and they're both on their phones, or one of them is reading a paper, and there's very little interaction going on. I don't know about you, every time I see that, it's a little bit disturbing. It's a little bit sad, and you ask yourself, how long is this relationship going to last? There doesn't seem to be a lot of effort going into this right now. And this is the point that I'm trying to make, is that it's not the type of thing where you get married and then, that's it, hands off, lay back, we're good to go, that's it. The same way in a project, in school, in your job, you're constantly reinventing yourself. You're constantly investing every last ounce of energy and strength you have to making this work and to make this beautiful, because after all, the sky's the limit. In business, have you ever seen one businessman say, okay, we've made exactly what we want to make, and now we're just going to close off because we've reached our year's goal? You guys are all off for the next 3 months. Have any of you ever heard of such a thing? No, because that's not how capitalism works. You're able to make more, you make more. It's like that in life as well, especially in relationships. There's no limit to how far and beautiful and great the relationship can be. The only way to get that relationship to where it should be, to where it needs to be, is with constant work to have positive interactions all the time. Right? Right? And this is true in the story of Purim as well. This is why Hashem is not mentioned in the Megillah. Because the whole concept of Purim is how we are analyzing the Megillah over and over again and investing of ourselves to try to see, oh, you see that? God was there. There's no way that could have happened without God's hand. What? Achashverosh wakes up and remembers Mordechai just on the eve of the destruction? Oh, Haman is the one guy that's going to lead Mordechai down the streets, declaring his honor. How could it be? There's too much coincidence in the Megillah. There's too much coincidence in the Megillah for it to be void of God. That's why it says, Kimu v'kiblu me'ahava, that they didn't just receive the Torah. They received the Torah out of love. It was a recognition, a realization that everything that we had, that came up to us, that happened to us this far in the story, is only thanks to God and God's interactions. Any questions thus far? Yeah?
The question is actually, what are the traditions or kind of guidelines for costumes on Purim?
Okay, so this is exactly what I was getting to. So if you don't have questions, we can go further. I want to discuss what we do and why we do it on Purim. Okay, so first of all, the main mitzvah is going to be reading the Megillah. Okay, reading the Megillah is both the night of Purim and the next day. So this year, that's going to correspond to Saturday night, okay, the 11th of March, and we're going to be having a party. Danielle is running a party at Lumen Lounge for our group. You're all invited to come, 7:30 p.m. Saturday night. It's going to be at Lumen Lounge. We're going to have Megillah reading there. And the next day also, find the Megillah reading near you at a synagogue or wherever. And the mitzvah is, I don't know if I'll ask Rabbi will be. Maybe we'll do one here. So there's Megillah reading. Next, the meal. There is a mitzvah to have a meal on the day of Purim and to get drunk on that meal. And the reason why we're doing that is we're doing the opposite, okay? We started off the class discussing how getting drunk is not a good thing, but on Purim it is a good thing. The reason why on Purim it is a good thing is because, again, yes, Chaim.
As long as you're not driving.
As long as you're not driving, of course. Everyone is expected to Uber to the Torch party. What? Or get a lift with someone. Right, sleep on the couch. I think there's couches there, right? They have couches there, right? Again, when it's being done in the context of getting close to the Almighty, then it's a good thing. So, when I was in yeshiva, people used to get drunk. It was a whole other experience. A person only behaves when drunk the way their internal self is. So if a person is divided inside, if a person is depressed inside, if a person is angry inside, I guarantee you, if a person gets drunk enough, that will reveal itself. When I was in yeshiva, I was surrounded by tremendously elevated people. The only thing they would do while drunk would be just spit out pearls of Jewish wisdom. The most beautiful thing. Non-stop Torah, non-stop beauty, and tearing, and beautiful words of love and relationships. It was just the most incredible emotional thing. So our work leading up to Purim is getting ourselves healthy so that when we fulfill the commandment of getting drunk on Purim, we make sure that what comes out of us is something positive rather than something that will potentially embarrass us. Okay, so we mentioned the Megillah, there's the meal on Purim, okay? Mishloach manot, okay? Remember, the whole story of Purim is also unity. Esther got all the Jewish people together, and they all fasted, and together they prayed to God. When we pray as one people, it's a whole other experience. It's like parents with their children. Parents love when their children are united, when they're unified. God is our Father, and when God sees that we as a people are united and we're all praying together, great things happen for us as a people, and that's what happened in the story of Purim. So Mishloach Manot is fostering this love. Same idea. Matanot le'avyonim, number 4, giving money to the poor. If you can give more than you normally give, I would recommend giving maybe 3 times chai, which is 3 times 18, to charity, either to someone that you know or to a charity that you know that will responsibly distribute that money to the Jewish poor of your town, because your town comes first. So I can already think of one at the top of my head. For those of you that don't have one on your mind, there's Tomchei Shabbat. Tomchei Shabbat is an organization that distributes food every single week to the needy of our community, so that everyone has enough food for Shabbat. That's a great charity to give food for. You could look them up on their website. And those are the main mitzvahs of Purim. Reading the Megillah, having the feast and drinking in that feast, Mishloach Manot, giving gift baskets, ideally food. And ideally foods that can be enjoyed then and there. Everybody knows what my wife makes every single year. My wife makes these Greek yogurts with granola and fruit inside. Everybody loves them. The ideal mitzvah is something that can be enjoyed right then and there. It could be a soup. It could be cookies. It could be something cooked. It could be meat, chicken. It could be snack, whatever it is. A classic Jewish thing to serve is like a mini bottle of wine or something like that. So all of those things are adequate. And you'll notice that entire theme, because think about it. Look how social eating a meal together is as well. On Shabbat, right? When we're all together. It promotes a lot of achdut, a lot of unity, a lot of joy. That's every single item, every single mitzvah that we do on Purim is fostering this love, this achdut. So it's all following the same theme. Okay? Anybody else? Does that answer your question of the costumes? Because the concept of the costumes is, the whole concept of Megillah is v'nahapochu. V'nahapochu means that everything was switched. Everything was not as it seemed. If you take a Megillat Esther, you take the book, and you read it, okay, much like a Hollywood movie, everything for the first half of the storyline seems to be going very, very, very bad. In the end, not only does the bad get, disintegrated, but it turns out retroactively that all of that bad was in fact good and necessary for that final salvation to occur. So the idea of a concept is, it's not what it seems. I am not what I seem. Okay? It's not a Halloween theme. It's a whole separate concept. But the whole origination of the concept of costumes on Purim is in following this idea of v'nahapochu, that nothing is or was then as it seemed, and that God was there the entire time orchestrating everything. And this is really the beauty of Purim. Tzvi, you wanted to make Purim relatable and relevant to us in 2017. What I would tell you, and I would tell everyone here, is to think about finding God in our lives and our everyday occurrences. Let's say one of you, God forbid, gets sick. Okay, and when I say sick, I don't mean like God forbid, life-threatening. Even like a really bad flu, a really bad cold, a really bad allergy, whatever it is. Sometimes it could be really, really debilitating, right? But then you start feeling better. Think about the fact that everything that you have in your body to make you feel better is all a direct gift from God. It's all your body working the way it needs to be working. You waking up every morning, you're able to see, you're able to hear. So many of the things that we take for granted in life are regular miracles, regular hidden miracles that only need us to open up our eyes to bring them to the forefront, to reveal them. Megaleh. So the concept of Purim is showing a storyline where there were a lot of hidden miracles that brought salvation to our people. I think one of the messages that we can take out of it, something that we can use to make relevant for our lives, is saying, you know what, I'm going to keep my eyes a little bit more open. I'm going to rediscover everything in my life, if it's in my relationships, if it's in my health, my livelihood, everything that's good in my life that really is in fact a miracle, and it is really part of the plan, part of God orchestrating everything in my life. Okay? So with that, any questions? No? With that, thank you very much for listening to this class. What we're going to have now is we're going to have dinner for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to turn on the Skype, and Rabbi Garfinkel is going to be giving us a class. Okay? Thank you very much. Tzvi, I'll ask you to get the music while we have dinner. Thank you all very much.